Everyone, and welcome to the very first installment of Sniper Sundays. Now, I'm going to be bringing out a video on every Sunday, which is basically going to break down the market, do a market breakdown of the previous week, so we can look through what's happened in the previous week and understand what and why things have happened, and then also mainly to prepare ourselves and look ahead for the week ahead, so we are fully prepared for what's going to happen. So we can sort of create a watch list together, create a top picks of currency pairs that we're going to look at for the week ahead. And so, as I said, we are fully prepared. We know what we're looking for, and so we're ready as soon as the market opens, which is in an hour or so. So, what I want to touch on first is basically the fundamentals, because we have just had one of the biggest fundamentals that comes out last Friday from the US, which was the non-farm payroll. So I'm just going to bring up the news calendar here for the moment. So if we just go back to last Friday, as I said, here we can see we had the non-farm payrolls which came out, and I'm going to go over what happened with the non-farm payroll on the charts shortly. But the reason I'm looking at the fundamentals more so today than normal is because there's a lot of fundamentals coming out next week which we need to be aware of and we need to know about, because they will play a significant role in the market. Now, if I just look to Monday, we can see the Monday calendar here. There's not much happening here. There's no real news release or data coming from anywhere in the world. And on Tuesday, same again, there's nothing really happening. Now, after non-farm payroll, normally, in any situation, when we have non-farm payroll on a Friday, I would not normally trade on a Monday, regardless of what's happening in the week. Normally, what I would do is just let the market settle, let the dust settle on a Monday, because the non-farm payroll on a Friday can be highly manipulative, which I'm sure many of you are aware. Normally, you can see a lot of spikes in price action to the upside, to the downside, manipulating all over the place. And basically, I don't normally trade the non-farm payroll. I normally just stay away on that day. But certainly the aftermath on Monday and Tuesday, there can still be manipulation in the market as people are holding on to positions, or basically the market's just trying to catch you out before the real moves later in the week. So, as I said, really, given that there's not much news coming out on the Monday or the Tuesday anyway next week, and given the extra factor that is after non-farm payroll, I'll probably stay away from trading these couple of days unless something is very obvious to us and I'm very sure of a trade. I would probably stay away. Now, the reason being because on the Wednesday, we can see here 9:30 a.m. as usual in the UK, we have the GDP and the manufacturing productions. So this is bound to play with the pound, with the Great British pound. So I'll come to that later on with the pound pairs and what I'm thinking. But that is quite significant news. So that is bound to play a role with the GBP. Now, more importantly, is the euro. So we can see here we've got the ECB press conference, which I'm sure many of you who've been trading for a while know the volatility that can happen while there's a press conference happening with the Eurozone. And then we also have for the US dollar, the CPI coming out. So you can just see there we've got news from the euro and news from for the US dollar from America. So this is obviously going to play big time for, let's just say, the euro US dollar pair. So that is on Wednesday, and then after that we've then got the FOMC meeting at 7 p.m. So there's a lot of news coming out on Wednesday. So Wednesday is going to be a big mover in the market. Then Thursday, we've got an OPEC meeting. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what this is, OPEC meeting is a meeting regarding the price of oil. So it basically affects the oil prices, which I'll just look at now quickly. And oil at the moment is at just over $63 per barrel. It's the highest price oil has been since the beginning of this year. So there is an OPEC meeting which discusses the output of oil and how much oil is supplied on a monthly basis. So this meeting is going to be very significant to the oil price, and also the currencies that oil affects. So you guys should know by now what oil does affect, which is the Canadian dollar, which can be massively influenced by oil. And there's obviously other currencies as well, but I will get back to that later on when we're looking through the charts. Now, Friday, then there's not really much happening on Friday. So basically, Wednesday and Thursday are the main fundamental days that we need to watch out for. So now get into the charts. Euro USD. So I'm going to start off with everybody's favorite. This is the most traded pair. As we all know, everybody likes to trade Euro USD because of the volume that we find in it. Now, what I'm going to start off with is the weekly chart, which I will do on most of these pairs, because on a Sunday, when you're doing your weekly analysis, getting prepared for the week ahead, obviously looking at the previous week's candlestick to see what the price action is telling us is very, very important. Now, Euro USD, you can see here, I'm just keeping the chart quite clean at the moment. You can see we've ended this week on a doji candle. So you can see this price action here for the week. We've had a very bearish week the week before, pushing down. So a lot of people would have been looking for this to continue, as I was, as I'm short on this pair at the moment. But we did continue down, but then we couldn't really push past the previous lows and keep going. We've just created an indecisive sort of weekly candlestick. The buyers and the sellers haven't won. It sort of just ended up in the middle. Now we just have a look at here. We can just see we've got this sort of weekly support level there from previous before that we spiked back through, and then we've come back up, and then we come down. We retested that last week, 2 weeks ago, and then this week we've come down, spiked below, but then price has actually closed just above that support level. So we haven't actually managed to close below this, which is something we need to take into consideration moving forward. Now, if I look at the daily chart, I did show on my Instagram live actually my short trade on this, which I'll just show you quickly, which was when we had this break off the trend line over here. This was actually the last time there was an FOMC meeting. I think it was 2 weeks ago. The news was manipulated, or the markets were manipulated when the news came out, to have that push up higher through that resistance level, and then we came all the way back down. So I took a nice short trade up here for a tight stop, and we've pushed all the way down. And the last couple of weeks, we are now running about 200 pips, as I think you've seen on my Instagram post. So I'm running 200 pips from a short trade up here. Now we can see we've met this support again for the third time, and I was looking at taking longs from this area last week around the NFP time, but as I said, this week now with the news coming out, I think there may be some more manipulation around this area before pushing higher if we can. So if I just go down to the 4-hour chart, you guys also would have seen that I posted let me just get rid of this trend line to keep it clearer. You would have also seen that I posted another short trade on this pair during the week, which I'll just quickly explain why. It's a bit of an obvious one. Because at the moment here, this is the 4-hour chart. You can see that we're in a downtrend here. If I just put this trend line on, you can see we're in a downtrend. So we're creating lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. So in order to stay in this downtrend, the only thing that would invalidate this trend is breaking the last lower high. So the last lower high on this downtrend was this level here. This was the last lower high. So we had the low low, the lower high here, the lower low, lower high, lower low here, and then a lower high, and then we made a lower low. So in this sort of trend that we're forming, this was the last lower high. So I was looking at price come back up to retest this level, and you can see here that it was struggling. We had this really nice bearish 4-hour shooting star. So that was an obvious sign that we were rejecting this quite strongly. And then if we drop down to the lower time frames, we can see we're having various rejections from around this level, and then we push down. Now there was an obvious sort of, not an obvious, but an obvious sort of area of interest to look at long trades, which was this support level that I've already marked out on the weekly and the daily. So this support level here, 1.1215. We come down to here, and I was watching out for this. I took another short trade, which I think was about 40 pips, to come down to this target level, because this is the area that I was actually looking at possibly taking a long trade if the euro was to reverse and start pushing back up to the upside. Now, if we just look at this, reason being is there's a little bit of a reversal sign here, just across this level. We've got the left shoulder here, we've got the right, the head, and then we've got the right shoulder. So what I was looking at last week was taking long trades from this level, and I actually did take this trade, and there was about 50 pips in profit. But then we come back down to hit, to come towards, yeah, I think we hit my stop loss at break even just here. So I was looking at this setup here. So I just adjust this and having a stop loss just below after that nice 4-hour doji candle there, showing that rejection, that third rejection of this sort of area here. And then we moved up on NFP, made about 40-50 pips or so, moved my stop loss to break even, but unfortunately we've come back down and retested that. Now I will be watching this area for the week ahead, because you can see now we're sort of going to be ranging in this level. We found this resistance and we got this support. So I'm watching this area now to see whether we can actually reverse from this level. We've also got third touch of this trend line. So I'll be watching this level here to see whether we can actually break this counter trend line and continue to the downside, or whether we actually pull back up. And if we see some bullish signs from this support level here and breaking back above this counter trend line, then I will be looking at taking long. So if I just zoom out on this to make it a little bit more clearer, you can see that trend line, or the counter trend line here. Should we break and close solidly below this and below this support level, then the US dollar can come down lower. I said there's a lot of news coming out on Wednesday, so expect some manipulation from around here. So unless we see something significant from this level, you can see on the 1 hour that we're actually spiking to the downside. That pin bar there showing some bullish moves. If we can push off this and close back up above the counter trend line, I will be looking at taking longs to come higher. With stop losses just around below this area, just below this last low here at 1.120, which is that significant round figure, that round number 1.1200. So I will be looking at taking longs from around this level, but should we close and break and close strongly below this level and this support line and this counter trend line, if we close below this level here, sorry, let me just adjust this. We close below here, then I will be looking at this pair coming lower, taking out these lows, or testing these lows at least before the news comes out on Wednesday or around the news, and then looking from there. So I am looking at taking longs on this pair, but as I said, I am going to stand back and wait until Wednesday when the ECB meeting happens, unless I see something very obvious and we reject this level, this sort of inverse head and shoulders level that I'm looking at now, which I do like. And if the market opens and shows me an opportunity, then I will take a long trade. But as I said, be very aware of the manipulation that could happen this week. Once we break above this level, this is a clear buy sort of area. If we close above this level here, 1.1250, then I do think that the euro is going to come up quite a bit higher. To various levels, we can see a retracement from perhaps from this level here. We look at a large retracement, we could pull back all the way back up to the 38.2% retracement, the 50, or obviously the 61.8. So they're all options that we could come to if we can break above this last lower high and this resistance level that we found at 1.1250. So that's my setup. Sort of, I'm looking for Euro USD. I do like a long trade from around here, but you have to remember there is these sort of support levels just below around here, which we might come down and test one more time. Given the news and the volume that will come into the market, we could just push down, retest this support, and then from here I'll possibly looking at long trades from here. So that's my setup on Euro USD. Now Euro GBP, a similar sort of scenario which I'm explaining, I was looking at on Euro USD for next week, and this is a pair that this week I had a nice long trade. I've been documenting these trades all of last week and previous weeks, so that I can release and show something to people about the trades that I'm taking each week, the before shots, the during and the after. And this was one of them here. which I'll just break down quickly for you guys. Euro GBP. Now I explained to you that I look at this pair because it helps me measure the strength of the euro and the weakness or the strength of the pound. Given here, you can see this pair going up, and that Euro USD didn't really do too much. You can see that the pound must have been weaker here. So then we can follow over to pound pairs, look at how they reacted. But this gives you an indication of the weakness in the pound, the UK, the GBP. So from here, we had this lovely pin bar down on towards my support region, my monthly support at 0.8500. So from there, I was actually looking on, I think it was Wednesday night, for price action was around here. I was waiting for a pullback first before getting into the market to see if we could sort of retest this level. Again, that sort of head and shoulders movement, and just sort of retest this support level. You see the support here, but I was looking for around this support level. And also, given that if we got that rejection, we would have had this nice Fibonacci retracement back down to the 61.8%. So I did take a nice long trade here at this level, and we came all the way up to the weekly resistance at 0.8600, where I took the majority of my profit. I still have a small position running on this, as I do think we could go higher, but what we need to look on Euro GBP this week is that we are just trying to break out of this trend line here. But we are mainly trapped for a long period of time within these couple of hundred pips, 200 to 400 pips here. So I am watching this pair, and we're pulling it back down. We may just be retesting this support level of 0.8600, and we may just retest, if I just clone this, we may just retest this sort of support level here. Let me just adjust this support level here. We may retest the EMA here, and then spike back up and continue our move upwards. So we're just having a bit of a pullback here at the moment. So that's a nice trade and something that for you to learn from, sort of that inverse head and shoulders movement there. And we have broken out the trend now, so I will be holding this trade to see whether we can come back, retest, and have that continuation. So I'm looking at coming down and retesting this sort of 0.8590 area. And if I see further rejections here and a rejection of the EMA and the trend line, then I will be possibly looking at adding a position to take a long. But given that I've got a great position down here running risk free, I don't necessarily need to do that, and I will just see how the pound is behaving next week. But yeah, that's a sort of a setup that I'm looking at on Euro GBP. There was a few other trades that I had good trades in, but I don't want to go over that too much. I know you guys would prefer to look at sort of trades that we can get in for next week. So Euro GBP is a pair that I'm looking at for next week. So we can see here, we're keeping this nice and clean, this chart. A couple of weeks ago, I took a short from this area up here at the very top, and we had about 250 pips to the downside, which I posted on IG. Now, I took most of my profit, but I'm still got some of a position on this from when we came down to this support level. See, these support levels are easy to pick out. This support, this support. When we came down to this level, I took off a percentage of my trade, moved my stop losses to break even as always. And from here, I'm just watching the market to see what it does now. We have pulled up quite a bit. We've making new higher highs and higher lows in this sort of 4-hour uptrend that we're in at the moment. But you can see here that we are finding resistance around here. You can see we're finding resistance at 125.50. That 125.50 level. So we're struggling around this area, but even though it looks like a very good short trade here, as I said, this pair is being affected by the euro. So whatever happens this week with the euro will obviously affect this. What I'm looking at for is a break of sort of these two areas. We've got this trend line here that I've got mapped on. You can see that we're just come to retest that again. We didn't really test it here. We're coming down to retest that again. I'm seeing whether this is just going to be the catalyst to actually push this up even further and break above this resistance that we're struggling to get above at the moment, or whether we're actually going to break below this and then start the downfall on this pair. Now, I did like the Japanese yen. I was looking at it to get a bit weaker last week, but as something I touched on my Instagram live, the you need to learn and look at different aspects within the world market, and why the Japanese yen would be getting weaker or stronger. So sorry, last week I was expecting it to get stronger, for this pair to fall down. But yeah, you need to look at different aspects throughout the world. There is many different reasons that you need to look into. I'm going to touch on these in other videos in the future. But yeah, there's a lot when you're taking a trade on Euro or GBP or Euro JPY. There's other aspects in the world and commodities that affect these currencies, which you really need to understand before taking these trades. For instance, just one I'll go over now, I think I mentioned before, is gold can affect the Japanese yen. So obviously, before taking a short trade on this, if you thought it was going to come down, you need to check what gold's doing. There's an inverse correlation with the JPY and gold. So if gold is rising, normally you see the yen start going the opposite way. So if you saw the gold go up, normally you would see USD JPY go down, and therefore obviously this would help affect the Euro JPY as well. So there's many different aspects that you need to pick up on, many different aspects that I will be going over the coming weeks and teaching people. So but in what I'm basically getting at with Euro JPY here, Euro JPY, is that we need to wait around this area, be aware of the different fundamentals throughout the world before taking a trade here. I think we do have the possibility to break above this resistance and really take off on this pair. And vice versa, we can still just break down to the downside. I don't really mind which way it goes. I'm sitting and ready to take a trade on this pair next week. If we get a nice clean break of this level, then I can look at taking shorts, and we get a break above, then we can look at taking longs. Obviously, we're seeing the resistance here. It looks like an obvious short at the moment, but anything can happen next week. So don't ever get sort of married to one direction of the market. You can sometimes analyze the charts and think, right, this is where I think it's going to go, and this is where I want it to go. That's not how to trade. You need to basically be able to change your mind at any given minute. Everything can change in a second with forex trading. So even if you've done your weekly analysis and you expect, for instance, to short this pair and it's going to come down to 1.2400 down at this level, that can all change in an instant. So just because you think that that's what's happened and that's what your analysis told you, your analysis can change very quickly. So we could break this, but we might find support. Something else might happen in the world. Something might happen with gold or different other fundamentals, and then we need to look at changing our mind. So you need to be aware of at all times. GBP USD, a trade I'm going to be looking at possibly taking along on this pair. You can see here, last week we came down and retested that 1.3000 level once again. We find it very hard to break through that level at the moment. So I am keeping an eye on this. If I just look at the weekly chart on this, you can see that it's not really looking good for any bullish moves at the moment. We had a push up, and we had that big push all the way back down, and we closed as a bit of a shooting star and a doji candle pushing all the way back down to where price opened. And so all the buying power that happened throughout the week got suppressed and pushed all the way back down again. So if we just look at the daily, the last candlestick on the daily, and so we had this nice tweezer tops here to look at taking shorts on this, but we have run into very strong support straight away. We've touched this, we've rebounded, and we sort of ended the day as a doji candle on GBP USD. So I am looking and keeping an eye out for this week. See there on a 4 hour, quite a nice pin bar. We're rejecting this sort of level again. So I am looking at this pair to come back up, because nothing really has moved fundamentally wise with the Brexit negotiations and for the GBP in the UK. We've been sort of within this range for a long time now, and until something really changes, just look through here, this sort of range. Until something really changes and happens, I don't really see us breaking through that level immediately. We need to see if any news happened or how the market opens over the weekend. But I am going to be looking at maybe a little bit more rejection from this level, and possibly taking a long from 1.300. So this is definitely a level of interest. But remember, I said on Wednesday we have some news coming out. So I do expect the market to be fairly quiet over the next couple of days. Let's just drop down to the 1 hour on this. You see this really nice reversal sort of pattern on the 1 hour, that pin bar, that 1 hour bullish engulfing. So if we come back and retest and reject this level again, I will be looking at taking a long trade on this pair and coming up and seeing how far we can go. Let me just have a look on this. 1 hour, we would need to break out of this to really gain momentum to push up any higher. I'll just look at that on the 4 hour. So I will be looking around this area. This will be an area of interest for me this week, seeing whether this pair can break above this counter trend line. If we can, then I think we can take off. But if we struggle around here, we may come back down and then break down below this this stubborn level here. So I am watching this pair this week, and we'll be watching out for a break above this into this buy area. But I do feel should we break below 1.3 the 1.300 level, then we could be in for a huge drop on this pair, as this pair has literally just been dancing off this level for a long time, and we could literally just break through and push down very, very low and come down to weekly, monthly lows. Come down to these levels here, 1.27, 1.28. Depending on news, should we break that level, we could see this pair move very, very fast. USD JPY, a pair that I have been looking at all last week. Now, I'm expecting manipulation around this resistance level, or this trendline resistance level, I should say. So here you can see we have this trend line, 1.1, 0.2, 0.3, and we're coming back up to retest it here. Now, trend lines I also call trap lines, because the market traps people in around these areas. People are looking to take a long on the breakout, looking to take a short on any sort of rejection, and it really captures a lot of traders in around this area to manipulate you and sort of create the liquidation that we need to make that sudden impulsive move when it's ready. Now you can see here on the daily, it looks like we are breaking up to the upside here, and then we've been followed that on Friday by a doji candle. So that's sort of indecision in the market once again. I drop down to the 4 hour. You can see here that we've had that 4 hour whiplashing sort of doji candle. This was the NFP 4 hour candle. So you can see we had that push to the upside, push to the downside. Let me just zoom in on this. This candle here is the manipulation I'm talking about with non-farm payroll. We had the push up to sort of bring in any buyers into the market, and also hitting any stop losses that people have already sold just above this previous high. And then we've had a whip back down to bring in any sellers, and now we're just sort of stuck in the middle, and people who are too eager to trade this pair will be stuck here in the middle at the moment, waiting for the market basically to do whatever it's doing. Now, looking at price action, I would like to see this pair come lower, so I will be looking at further rejection from around these areas on market open and Monday, Tuesday, to see whether we can actually pull back down. I do think that this could possibly be a fake out of this trend line. We've moved up a nice 30-40 pips from that trend line, bringing in enough buying people trying to buy this pair, and yeah, I do think that we could pull back down. So I do favour the shorts on this pair. We look at the 1 hour chart, we sort of see a bit of a double top here, but yeah, we're struggling to break resistance here. If we get any further retest of this and rejection, I will be looking at taking short trades with a minimal stop, because we do have this weekly resistance just above us, which this price could magnetize to and push up and actually take out this level. So watching around this level here, 111.80, that round figure there. I will be watching to see if there's any more rejection of this. If there is, then it could be a nice short trade here with a 10, 15, or 20 pips stop loss, and then we could look at coming down and taking out various levels. But if I just show you this first, I've been looking at this pair coming down and retesting this trend line, and if we can break through that, then we can look at coming down to long-term targets, or possibly all the way back down to 1.1 1.100, which will be this level here, and then eventually all the way back down to, just adjust that, then back down to 110.00. So yeah, looking at that at the moment. But again, fundamentally with the Japanese yen, there may be reasons that this may push up higher. So I'm keeping an eye on that as well. But yeah, I'm watching out for short trades. I do favour the short on this pair. Now, I did speak about oil. So I just bring up oil here. You can see we're just popping our head above the $63 per barrel. I will be watching this pair this week to see whether we can actually find resistance here. But given that the OPEC meeting on Wednesday, I'd stay away till then. But I'll be watching here to see whether if oil weakens, then that will affect the Canadian dollar pairs. So things like USD CAD, these will be affected by the oil price. So I'll be watching oil and I'll be watching the USD CAD to see how one affects the other. If we see a pullback on oil, we see that the whatever the results of the meetings are, and we see a large pullback on oil, which looks like we're overdue, given that we've just reached yearly highs so far. If we have a pullback on oil, then USD CAD will weaken, and we will see this pair come up even higher. But I do expect, like you on USD CAD, to see this pair come up a little bit higher over the next couple of days. This trade I was looking at last week, we've broken this counter trend line, sort of had this fake out, found support, made a new high, came down, found support again, and rejected that support and had that push up to the upside. I do like to see USD CAD come up and retest this trend line, which I've got above us here. So I do like longs on USD CAD at the moment. But yes, I think this will be very much influenced by the US oil meet and the OPEC meeting this week. So be very careful on Wednesday if you are trading the oil markets or trading any Canadian dollar, so Euro CAD, USD CAD, or any other. Now, NZD USD. Again, there's not really a lot at the moment I can really pick out for you guys, given that it's just after NFP and there's so much news coming out next week. But on NZD USD here, a pair that we looked at on my Instagram live a couple of weeks ago or last week. I am short from the top here at 0.6900, and if I drop down to the 4-hour here, there was a nice opportunity to take another short trade on this pair, which I'll run over. But we are very close to the monthly support here of 0.6700. I do think that we're going to come down a little bit lower to try and tap this level. And from here, I'll be looking at possibly taking long trades. Actually, I'm looking at long trades at the moment on this pair. But given that we had that monthly support at 0.6700, I would like it to just come down and tap that level. But you can see here, NZD USD sort of magnetizes to this 0.6700 level. You can see here we've got support, resistance here, resistance. We kind of always, for the last couple of years, have been coming to retest this level. We move away from it and we come back and retest. But recently we've just been making higher highs, higher lows here and not coming down to test that level until now, where we've actually broken this support level here, which I will just show you here. We've actually just broken below this. So I was looking at this pair on Friday to see whether we would actually pull back up and close above this support level, or whether we're actually going to continue this short trend that we're in at the moment and come down and tap this monthly level. Now have a look on the 4-hour chart. As I said, there was quite an obvious trade on this pair. So we had the initial break of the counter trend line here, which I explained last week. And then from here, we had that initial break below. Then we came back, sort of had a breather here. And similar to what I mentioned on Euro USD earlier. So now we've just broken the counter trend line. So we're sort of just created a downtrend. So we've just broken this counter trend line here, created a downtrend. So we're just coming back up for a breather here. Had that small bit of a retracement to this high here, this doji candle. Then we come down, made a new low. So then in order to we need to have a retracement before making a new low. So we've had our lower low, a lower high, a lower low, And then we came back up and retested this resistance level here. You can see here that slowdown in price action on the 4-hour chart, very clear here, that two doji candles, which showed that we were struggling to break back above that level, and we were in fact going to continue the downtrend. So there was a nice opportunity to take a short trade here, and aiming to come down to this monthly support level. Now we have broken through, we've broken that support, and we come back and retested it, and we're coming back down again. So I do think that we are going to come down and test that level of 0.6700, and from there I will be looking at taking long trades. So seeing as this pair is this level is very strong for this pair, I will be looking at taking a long trade from around this level, and I'll be looking at this sort of situation as well. So on the daily, we have just broken through, but we want to confirm that this is going to be not a fake out on the trend line here. So we've got 0.1, 0.2, and this was our 0.3. Sort of had that push up here, brought people into the market on the daily chart. You can see that bullish candle, but then we couldn't sustain and we just broke down below. Now I am watching around this area very carefully next week for possible long trades. So even if I just mark out this support level here, I'm going to be watching on the market open around this level to see whether we can actually break below last week's low and tap this level. And if we have any spikes down to the downside, any sort of rejections down around this area, I will be looking at taking a long trade on this pair once again, and aiming to come up possibly back up to the 0.6900 levels and breaking this trend line. Again, we can pull back, we may just find some support around these areas, pull back up to retest this trend line, and then keep moving down to the downside. But once we break this sort of trend line here, that's when the momentum really kicks into the market. But I like to get in down at these sort of levels down here. So by the time we come up to these levels, that my stop loss is already moved to break even. So even if we do roll over back down to the downside, my risk is covered. So I am looking around this area this week for sort of price action to dip into and reject from. And from there, I'll be looking at taking long trades on this pair to come up higher, to retest the previous lower highs, which are areas like this, and then previous lower highs, and then all the way back up to the 0.6900. So that is something I'm looking out for this week. Let's see, is there anything else to go over? Gold, I had a nice long trade on gold on Friday. We had this break off the trend line. Let's get rid of this. We've had a break of this long-standing trend line here. Sort of, we can see this head and shoulder movement. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, came down. This is the neckline. So this is a strong support level. We can see that we found support here before. So last week, if I drop down to the 4-hour, I explained that I was looking at taking longs, which I did on this on gold when I created this sort of range here. So we could see here on the 4-hour, we had loads of rejections here. Took a long trade, was about 80 pips in profit. Took some profit, came back, took me out at break even when we had that spike through. But on the 4-hour, you can see that spike through. But if we just zoom out and look at the bigger picture, we can see the support level over here. So we drop down to the 1-hour, you could see we had this pin bar rejection on the 1-hour, and then we had that 1-hour bullish engulfing. So that sort of reversal candlestick formation in order to take longs. So I did actually take a long from down at this level here. You could have taken a long here, which would have gained you another 40 or 50 pips. And we've actually come back down and retested this level again. So I'm looking for gold to actually come higher, which, as I said earlier, works well with my overall bias of USD JPY coming lower. So what I'd like to see is gold come up higher and break out above this highlighted zone. We've rejected this level again, the level that I was looking at buying from my last Instagram live, which was here. And then I bought from this area on Friday. We come back down and retested this for the third time, and showing that sort of spike to the downside and that rejection. So I would like to see this pair actually now move back up to the upside, break out of this level, and then push this. We see this pair or see this commodity come a lot higher. Now, if we did see that, then what we would see on USD JPY, we should see this pair pull down. As I said, these two work with inverse correlation, not 100% correlation, but there is correlation, an inverse correlation between the two of them. So I am looking at some point next week, looking at trying to get a good position in a gold, another good position in gold long, and on USD JPY, looking at short positions from around this level. So these are all sort of things I'm looking out for this week, guys. Unfortunately, there's nothing too particular to talk about given the news that happened on Friday. And I said I don't normally like to trade on the Monday following, so I will be waiting probably till about Tuesday or Wednesday to take some trades. So just to recap on this is Euro USD. I'll be watching around these levels here, these support levels for long trades. If we do manage to break through 1.1215, then I will be looking at this lower level and waiting until we reach this lower level to take a long trade from around here. But yeah, I'll update on my Instagram. I'll update with an Instagram live during the week once things become a bit more apparent. But hopefully that all helps. I am actually now on Twitter as well. I just started last week. So if you want to follow me on the link below, I am actually going to start posting some information. I actually posted about the oil retracement. If I just quickly bring it up. I did post about this oil retracement, which I could see here, which we had a nice 100 pip retracement on. Sorry, let me just adjust this. I did from this level here explained about a short trade from this that was possible. We came down and had about 100, 150 pips as we were due a retracement from this level and before we made that move higher. So yeah, follow me on Twitter, keep updated on Instagram, and yeah, I will update you guys during the week and then do another video next week. So I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.